ladies and gentlemen, the Big Booty Cheeks bill, a massive, massive wealth distribution for the wealthiest in society in the form of making the tax cuts that Donald Trump actually implemented in 2017 permanent, while also simultaneously increasing the budget for Trump's immigration detention and immigration enforcement by $175 billion, that is with a B, $1 billion. Luckily, as I said yesterday, there is some discontent coming from the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party psychos. They are pushing back on this, it seems. So there is some hurdles here. Obviously, if they push back and they write a new bill, that has to go back to the Senate. And therefore, it will move past the July 4th deadline that Donald Trump had put on this. So there's that. In an effort to make these extra pay schemes work, they have to cut a lot. And the way they are cutting a lot is by adding unnecessary paperwork and hurdles to people who are recipients of Medicare. New work requirements and new check-in requirements for people who are Medicaid recipients, some of the poorest people in society. 2/3 of Medicaid recipients are already working, by the way. This doesn't actually improve the number of people that are actually going out and working while receiving Medicaid. This is a way to cut them out of Medicaid. I was listening to firsthand accounts of some people that basically likened this to trying to file a tax return every month. 2/3 of Medicaid recipients are already in the workforce. They have a job already, okay? They already have a job. Adding additional paperwork to keep track of the work that you are doing in an effort to continue getting Medicaid is only done so you can kick people off of coverage. Some estimates state that 17 million Americans that are on Medicaid will no longer be eligible to continue their Medicaid coverage. There's also a work requirement for SNAP benefits as well. SNAP benefits that are basically $2 a meal, $2 extra a meal that some people are receiving, they won't be able to get unless they continue filing this unnecessary paperwork. The entire purpose of this is to create new hurdles in front of these sorts of welfare structures that people already rely on to survive. And as a direct consequence of this new paperwork scheme that they're designing, they are intending to basically gut Medicaid expenditures and SNAP benefits. They will then turn around and use this as a massive W, as many Democratic and Republican administrations have done in the past. This is always how it works. They do welfare reforms. They make it harder for people to receive welfare. Then they turn around and say, see, less people are taking advantage of welfare now. That means the economy is improving. No, dude, it's not improving. You just kicked them off of welfare. They still need it, but now they can't even receive it. And remember, these are some of the poorest people on the planet. SNAP works out to $9 per day for food for a single person. It's not even that much to begin with, exactly. And they're doing this while greatly expanding Trump's immigrant enforcement agenda, offering an endless faucet of funds to creating new alligator Auschwitz-style facilities in every state so you can hire more Gestapo officers, pay them better, and more expeditiously issue deportation orders to every single immigrant that's working right now. So on the other hand, we are quite literally, not only are we over working class Americans, the working poor that already have jobs that still are not getting paid enough from said jobs and therefore have to rely on government health care, have to rely on government benefits for food, to eat food, to feed their children and their families, okay? But also, on top of that, we are literally deporting people who don't even take advantage of those or can't even take advantage of those benefits and are basically working for pennies on the dollar. We are deporting them. We're ripping them away from their families instead of like giving them the opportunity to get the paperwork necessary for, continuing to live on U.S. soil. Yeah, we're not talking enough about how the Republicans are set to spend tens of billions of dollars building a vast network of new concentration camps. If you think ICE cruelty is bad now, wait until they have billions more dollars, tens of thousands more staff, and mega prisons. I tweeted about this yesterday as well, where I said $175 billion to immigration enforcement in this bill that just passed the Senate. Americans are oblivious to what's going to happen with Trump's secret police, ICE, CBP, using immigration enforcement to put people into concentration/death camps like alligator Auschwitz. That is the future. I'm a farmer. Conservative farmers around and are about to find out losing SNAP is a death sentence for programs like crop insurance. There's that side of it as well. Rural areas get double. If you're a Trump supporter living in a rural area, You already don't have adequate medical coverage, okay? You don't have a hospital in an immediate vicinity. And the ones that are close enough to you rely heavily on Medicaid. In poorer areas, in rural areas, a lot of these rural hospitals rely heavily on Medicaid. Medicaid is how these hospitals get paid. So when you take Medicaid away, these hospitals are already underwater. They're already in a state of disrepair. They're cooked. Now, no more hospitals. If you had one hospital in a 100-mile vicinity, now you're going to have only a functioning hospital in a big city. Same with nursing homes. 65% of nursing homes rely on Medicaid expenditure because long-term coverage is not covered under Medicare. So old people that already have Medicare need to also get Medicaid on top of that to pay for long-term care. So all of these nursing homes are going to be left underfunded as well. Bro thinks the left is the answer, noob. Your grandmother is probably going to die, and you're over here thinking like, you know what the real problem in American society is? The notion that like we could do better by our working class Americans. We could do better by every single other person, by basically moving a regular American existence to a comparable state that already happens in every other OECD nation. That's the real issue here. You dialed in, dude. Thank you. And then there is a snowball effect that cripples bigger hospitals and cities as well, because now they have to take over the healthcare responsibility for a larger population size. Same thing goes for SNAP. SNAP pays rural farmers more money. SNAP is part of the process in which like companies like Walmart are able to continue operating. The additional state funding allows these people to survive. It also allows these people to literally turn around and be able to purchase stuff at Walmart while they're working at Walmart. 172,200 people in Maine are on SNAP, 76,000 being children. SNAP benefits generated nearly $610 million in economic activity. SNAP lifted an average of 33,000 people out of poverty in Maine. It's so incredibly cooked. It is so unimaginably cooked. The situation is so busted. Oof. And here's what our opposition party is doing. Hakeem Jeffries posts pic of him holding a baseball bat with the caption, House Democrats will keep the pressure on Trump's one big ugly bill. Yeah, let me get an aide to take this photo. No one who's taller than me. No, even taller. This is what we're doing. Chuck Schumer also earnestly changed the name of the big beautiful bill, or at least struck the name big beautiful bill out of the bill. So there was that as well. Just go on television and talk about what I'm saying every day, please. Please, I'm begging the Democrats to go on TV every single day and bring up farmers with you, bring up nursing home patients with you that are on Medicaid, and just humanize, like put a face to the victims of this bill. Please do something. You have the capacity. You're a representative. You are a senator. Do something. Communicate how fucked up this is. What is going on? Republicans do such a great job of making a mountain out of a molehill by greatly overemphasizing crimes committed by immigrants that are marginal and ultimately statistically irrelevant, okay? That is how little heinous crimes are committed in the hands of undocumented migrants in this country as opposed to natural-born U.S. citizens, okay? Tens of thousands of murders every year. America is a uniquely violent country, and the undocumented migrants are responsible for a tiny sliver of that. So every time there is a murder that is committed by an undocumented migrant, you hear about it endlessly. Why? Because Republicans will cynically, in an effort to make it seem like all the murders that are being committed are happening in the hands of undocumented migrants, will literally plaster the victims in the most vicious way possible in an effort to drive home this narrative. They will literally go on every news outlet they possibly can, and it works. It's an effective way to propagandize. That is precisely how you arrive at 60% of Americans being in favor of mass deportations. Why are the Democrats not doing this in the opposite direction? Especially because the truth is on their side. Republicans are able to create hysteria around a non-issue and make it a real issue by driving this narrative into the ground. But Democrats can't even turn around and take advantage of a real issue that is going on in defense of this dramatic reduction in social safety nets that will lead to people dying.
But on the other side of the Capitol, some Republican House members were quick to rain on the Senate's parade.
What the Senate did is unconscionable. What they did to our bill was unconscionable. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote.
You know what's really funny about this is that you have two different forces in the House right now, in the House Republican side of things, because they are the only ones that matter, okay? Let's be real. You have some of the more moderate Republicans that are in areas where they're like, well, I don't want my Medicaid, I don't want my constituents' Medicaid to get cut. I'm going to get, right? You have the moderate ones that are saying that. And then you have the infinitely more important group of people who are saying the cuts are not deep enough. This actually expands the deficit. We can't do this, because the moderates will always play ball. The moderates are going to turn around and say, oh no, woe is me. I can't believe we're cutting entitlements. I can't believe we're cutting some of these benefits. I can't believe we're cutting Social Security or not Social Security, sorry, Medicaid and also SNAP benefits, right? But they will always play ball. They will turn around and go, I guess I have to play ball with this. But on the other hand, you got the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party Caucus, the Tea Party Coalition, that will try and stop this bill from passing, or at least like dramatically change it so that it has to go back to the Senate, pushing it way past the July 4th deadline that Donald Trump presented, simply because it doesn't the working poor hard enough, which, you know, in a unique time like this, I'll take it anywhere I can get it. Okay, so congratulations to the Freedom Caucus once again for potentially spiking this bill. I hope that they will make it so impossible to pass that the people in the Senate will turn around and go, yeah, we can't actually pass this. This is terrible. Please the bill up. Please cut it. Think about the deficit kings. I am a deficit hawk today, and only today, not tomorrow, but just for today. I am the biggest deficit hawk you've ever seen in your whole life. And I am begging, okay? I am begging. I am so on board with this. Please, you think about the deficit. Also, there's the other side of this where Trump made a promise that Medicaid would not be touched. But of course, we know what his promises are worth, and they're worth nothing. That's why there's a whole ordeal with the Fell for It Again awards, right? During a meeting with the mods in the White House, moderates, I guess, in the White House, what is mods in the White House? Trump told members that if they want to win elections, they shouldn't touch Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. But we're touching Medicaid in this bill, one member responded to Trump, per 3 sources.
House Speaker Mike Johnson acknowledged the tough road ahead after the Senate's changes, including steeper cuts to Medicaid.
I encourage them to amend.
Dude, can you imagine spiking the football on this? On the one side, you have Donald Trump, who is like the North Star of the modern Republican Party, right? The logical conclusion of all of this deregulatory and tax cutting agenda of the Republican Party. Permanent investment in defending the interests of the capital owning class. And that guy is saying no cuts to Medicare, no cuts to Medicaid, don't touch Social Security, right? Don't touch benefits because my people rely on those benefits. I'm a populist leader. Now, of course, he doesn't give a shit. He just has to say that. On the other side, you have some of the moderates who are like, well, we also don't want to, we're in districts where we might lose our power. We're in districts where we might lose our seat if we basically wipe out a decent chunk of the base by either actively killing them a couple of years down the line when they don't have access to health care because they can't pay for it, because we took it away from them, because they have to do ridiculous paperwork that is directly created so that they can't get Medicaid expenses covered. But then you have this much louder coalition that is saying we need to kill the working poor harder. What are we doing? Incredible stuff. I love the division, the diversity of real ass thinkers in both the House of Representatives and the Senate here, okay? It's amazing. You got motherfuckers unironically yelling about how little we're killing the working poor. Like, we need to melt them faster.
Democrats are united against this bill, arguing that it favors the wealthy. And there's new analysis from the Wharton School at Penn that finds this will cost the lowest income Americans about $970 each year by the year 2030. It also finds that the top 10% of income earners.
I did the math. No tax on overtime will give me a whopping extra 23 per 8 hours of overtime. $23. The other side of this like expedited process is that there aren't accurate enough estimates of how much you lose on the long run as far as like the tax cuts that you're receiving, especially if you are a recipient or have family members, for example, that you take care of that are recipients of Medicaid and SNAP. You have to remember, for every additional dollar that you're keeping in your pocket that you're not giving to the government, they're cutting tens of thousands of dollars worth of things that the government was offering you in the form of Medicaid, in the form of SNAP. This is something that most people have no way of comprehending. They don't understand it. They immediately think like, oh, well, overtime pay is not going to get taxed. Sick. I'm going to have, $200 at the end of the month in my pocket as opposed to giving it to the government. Okay, but you lost like thousands of dollars worth of healthcare coverage. Do you understand how much more you lost in this process? If you are literally a part of the working class, the trade-off doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit you at all. The reason why they're giving you that meager, that modest amount, that marginal amount back is so you feel like you're getting something. Here's AOC driving home that point in the congressional speech that she delivered. Trump's big, ugly bill is a deal with the devil.
Thank you, and I thank the chairman. President Trump had issued some statements throughout this process saying and urging, insisting that this bill does not cut Medicaid. He's also said some things, he says he doesn't think I'm too much of a smart person. And I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't take a smart person to know if you're being lied to. All right. President Trump, you're either being lied to or you are lying to the American people. Because this bill represents, in the text of this bill, the largest and greatest loss of health care in American history. 17 million Americans will lose their health care on this bill, not undocumented people, not quote unquote the disgusting term illegal, but 17 million Americans will have their health care cut from this bill. On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that text, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000, while you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil. It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away health care and basic dignity of the American people. For what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires.
Dude, could you imagine more AOCs and more Zorons like being prominent speakers in the Democratic Party as opposed to Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer? You don't have to love AOC. You could say she's a revisionist or blah, 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 all this and that. But just imagine if like the driving force behind the Democratic Party was the AOCs of the world. And if that was the case, if they were the center mass of the Democratic Party, then there would be infinitely more radical figures on the edges. The new AOCs would be far more left-leaning than AOC herself even. Like AOC should be the baseline of the party. What she is saying here should be the active communication that you're hearing from a real counterbalance, counterweight, real opposition party in this country. The opportunities at that point are endless. This is why you won't see me aggressively and actively on the most progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because I understand that change requires a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of outside pressure, but it also needs allies from within. It needs people that have a media presence. It needs people with a podium. And those people with that podium are not always going to use it in the ways that you want them to. There are certainly disagreements that I have as well with even people like AOC, but you're not supposed to love everything that these people are doing. They're politicians. They are supposed to represent us and our interests. I envision a world where if the AOC style rhetoric was the baseline for this party, the Democrats truly would be the opposition party, the successful opposition party that would prevent a tremendous amount of harm. We see this in increments when you have people like Chris Van Hollen come out and speak on behalf of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We see how quickly the public snaps back into reality. We see how quickly the media cycle changes. All of a sudden, it's contentious against what the Trump administration is doing. We have told ourselves a lie that change is impossible. And because of that, we have this expectation that like every single politician is supposed to be perfectly aligned with every single thing, every single demand that we have, not realizing that this kind of stuff moves the needle in the appropriate direction.